We're going to start recording for DRFT131. We're going to review the syllabus and the schedule. So today is the 15th of March. We're going to continue working on three solids. And then next class, we'll do a review of the tools that we've used in homework 9. Next week is spring break, so we don't have lecture recordings. And then we'll be back for the last 5 weeks of the class after the spring break. Remember, I did a quick review of your first submittal for the project that we have ongoing. Um, so make sure you check those comments if there are any. Right, so last class we did talk about sweep and loft. Um, we'll review that quickly again today and also talk about section plane, shell, and gizmos. So that should be pretty quick to do and interesting. So remember that we use the sweep tool to create objects like this, right? So where you sweep an object along a path. So go to solids and then select sweep. You can select this object, press enter, and the other object, and done. Right, so it sweeps the object along a path. We did the same here with this crown molding object, right? And so we sweep that object along a path. And you need to see what tools can you apply in your project, right, regarding that. And so the loft tool allows us to create objects like this, right, where we can loft a profile after another profile, and so on and so forth. So very powerful tools that way. So let me do left view here. I'm going to set my UCS by view, UCS view. And now I can create geometry directly here. So maybe I do geometry like that. Let's move that up a bit. And then go back to, let's offset that geometry by maybe 2 units. Like that. And now I'm going to go to the 3D view, UCS world, and let's move that series of objects here. And now I am going to, well, actually, let's do this. Let's look it up from here, UCS again, by view. Remember to set the UCS always to be perpendicular to the X and Y plane that you want to work with. So I'm going to do a polyline and then do trim. and trim all of those lines. And then now I'm ready to do this UCS world. Get back to that. And I'm going to move these objects by maybe 10. Yeah, move 10, move 10, move. That, and then let me move these far away from this side. And see that I keep all my work UCS by view. Keep all my work there because I don't want to delete anything that I've done so far. It's important that I keep it there. UCS world. So always remember to get to the UCS. And now let's look at the front side view. Yeah, that's fine. And we will do a loft here, right? So the loft is the other tool that we can get here from sweep loft, right? And we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and enter, right? So we just created this really amazing shape using the loft tool. Right? So a very powerful tool to use to create all kinds of geometry that you are interested in. So this could be any geometry. As a matter of fact, a student in a previous class did use this to create a boat, right? And that's kind of the idea here. So very powerful tool, the loft tool. See if you can apply it to your project or not. And then let's move on to the next. I'm going to kind of actually undo all of this until I get back to my shapes here. There we go. Because I want to copy this now. And this time I am going to do a polyline. And the polyline is going to be done on all the objects here. Then we'll try to see if we can, this is an interesting test. If we can actually join these as one object, PE, join, enter, okay? They're not joining because they're different objects. And so sometimes we need to actually work this out. So let's right click here and let's see what we got here. Would be edit, and let's make this a polyline. So yes, and now join. Still not joining, but now these two are polylines, right? So this is typical. It's typical that we may have a hard time trying to join an object to make it a polyline or not. Let's see what this object is. It's a polyline. And let's delete this again and do another polyline, right? PE for polyline. Select that point and that other point. Now we're going to do PE. Select polyline, join. It's still not. See, so that's a difficult thing to do. And remember that the idea is that if you have, let's do this. If you have a closed polyline, then you can make that a solid. But if you have an open polyline, then that's going to become just another object. So I'm going to go back here to this side, UCS by view, and I am going to do a hatch. Just type hatch. And I am going to do internal point. There is a gap there, so let's see what the gap is. Let's do a fillet, select this object, then that one. So that's why the polyline cannot be joined, probably, because, and so I am going to actually delete that object and do a polyline again. Let's do a hatch inside, and there we go. Go back to UCS by world. And then we can see the hatch here, right? That's where the hatch got created. And I can move it closer to that. But first of all, let's look at the object again and see if we can do PE. And now it is a polyline. So the problem was that I was not actually getting to the object. But now that I have a hatch, the hatch has a property that really helps in creating 3D geometry, because I can select that hatch and then I can go to generate boundary. Now there is a boundary. Let me move the hatch and I can see that the boundary is a polyline. So whenever I have a hard time trying to create a polyline with the objects, I can use the hatch to create a boundary. And by definition, that boundary will be a polyline. And that's what I wanted to do. And so you could then use this object again to create geometry that you may need. And so go back to UCS by view, UCS view. And now I can do this, offset this object and kind of recreate what I did before. UCS world. And now you can do this, right? Let's do a larger object this time. Let me do it differently here. I'm going to move everything here by 100. Move everything by 100. And move everything and then I am going to do either top or side view. Maybe top is better, right? So UCS plan. And now I am going to mirror this based on this one. And back to 3D. And I'm gonna do a loft. Let's see what happens now that the object is actually a polyline. Right, and so you see how the object actually then becomes a solid. Well, undo and do it again, because that's exactly, well, that's kind of what I wanted, but not exactly. So I'm gonna undo. There we go. And so go back to the left side, and I'm gonna do a UCS by view so I can manipulate these objects. And I'm still debating UCS world. See how the UCS needs to be changed. And I'm going to create a polyline from here. And then all I'm going to do is actually going to move these objects from the midpoint perpendicular. Midpoint perpendicular. Midpoint perpendicular. Midpoint perpendicular. And this one is there, so delete that and do that again. UCS plan, and now I'm going to mirror those again. And this time they should be at the same height. So loft. All right, and so now they're at the same, still not the same. So let's get back to that. And this is right there in the center. Let's look it up from the side view. Oh yeah, some of the objects are not. So once again, move, perpendicular, move, perpendicular, move. Look at the side view to make sure. Yeah, they're all now in the right place. And loft. Let's mirror it first. So I'm going to do UCS, plan, and now mirror. I will continue as we get that this time. Sorry, something's happening here. I'm not sure what it is, but we'll find out. Oh, two polylines. And done. And so now finally I have a shape that I was looking for. So see this, then if we look at the properties of the object, this is a solid. And this other one that we created with this other particular set of objects was actually a surface, right? And so they behave differently and they are different objects. Right, so this is a surface and this is a solid. So the Loft tool then allows us to create a lot of geometry that we can use. Now let's talk about the section plane tool. The section plane creates a section object that acts as a cutting plane through 3D objects. We kind of saw that before because I wanted to show a section of an object, but today we're going to create actually sections of the view of the object and make those sections part of a view. And so the first thing is, of course, to use the section plane. So select section plane, then click anywhere, and it creates a section, right? I can see the object has been sectioned. This does not delete the object. It's actually just creating a view. If I click on this object, which is the section plane, and then on this bigger, larger pull down arrow, put my cursor on top of it and right click, get these options. Put my cursor and left click and get these options. So I am going to create a boundary. And now I can see this boundary is actually sectioning the object. See how it defined that other side? Let's do a wireframe view and then select the boundary. So if I move this, then it defines how far it sections the object. If I move it towards here, it's creating a section on that other side too. So this is called the boundary. Another option that I have, if I left click on top of this, is the volume. And so remember that the volume acts as a sectioning box. If I move this down, it's going to section the object on the height. See? I need to have snaps off, and there it is. Okay? So this is a section box defined by the boundary. Or I can just go back to a simple plane, right? That's the simplest section plane at all. Now, some of the tools that are available within the section plane are the section tool, actually to create a section. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to right click on top of this arrow. And now I select to generate section. And there are two types of sections, the 3D block or the 2D. So select this. And now you select the type of section that you want, 2D or 3D. Let's start with the 2D. And done. Enter to accept the scale. And we just created a 2D. Now see that the section is of everything. All of the objects are sectioned. And the section is a 2D block, and it gets placed, then that section gets placed on the X and Y work plane. Let's undo and go back. And I'm going to create another section. Right click, generate section, 2D, 3D. And I am going to select 2D section, but this time I'm going to select objects to include. And select objects. And I'm going to select only that one. And create. And done. Enter, enter, enter. And so see, this time it only created a section of the object that I selected. So by default, it was set to create a section of all the objects that were on the work plane of that particular section box. Okay, so remember that this then is a 2D object, right? This is created a 2D object that I can use in any view. So if I go to my layout and maybe on my layout, I create a couple of different viewports, right? Then copy that viewport. And now I could focus on this particular object. This is the section I just created, right? Give it a scale and I call this section. This particular object is a 2D object, right, that I created. Take off the grid and it looks like the object I want. Now, this particular object doesn't have any features. But what if I do a section here, for example? So I'm going to do section plane. And now I'm going to go back here and see, yeah, that section is good. So click on the section plane, right click on the down arrow, generate section, 2D, 3D, and only select the objects to include so that I only select that one. All of them, actually. Enter and create. And now I have the section here. Enter, enter, enter. Go back to the layout. And I can see that section there. That's the one on the X and Y. And all I need to do now is to scale that section, right? One to 100 is too small, so I need to make it really large. Maybe, let's see, 1 to 200. And there it is. And so see how I can use the section plane to create a section of my project without having to draw anything, which is the idea here, right? Create all of the views from the 3D model as I continue to work on this. So that's an option. The other option that the section plane has is, of course, to create a 3D section, right? So I'm going to select the object, then generate section 2D, 3D, and select 3D section. Select the objects, enter, and create, right? And now enter, 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 and done. Now delete that, and you can see now the section that I created. This is a 3D section, and it creates a copy of your model section right where I needed it to, right? And so that's the other big option that we have within the section plane, which is to create a 3D section as well. And so, of course, you can use that also in a layout. Right, and that section is right here. And maybe you focus your layout on that particular object as well, right? Let's look at the scale, and there it is. And so those are the two different types of sections that you create. Remember that for the final presentation of this project, I'm asking you to create sections. And so this tool could be the tool that you use to create those sections also, although we are going to look at a couple of other options as well that we have. Another tool that I wanted to talk to you about today was the tool called shell tool. And for that, let's get back to this. Maybe this large object that I have, right? And we think that this object is a 3D solid. That's great. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a couple objects here. Let's see. Well, that's the best thing to do. I'm going to copy this object first and create a copy here. And then I will use the shell tool to work with this. So also on the solid tab, then we see this tool called shell. And let's see what it's going to do. Converts a 3D solid into a hollow shell with a wall of a specified thickness. And so let's do that. So I'm going to do shell. Now select this object, press enter. And now I am going to enter a distance for the shell. And maybe I do one unit, and done. And I have these options. I'm going to just click exit to accept the shell, and done. Now let's do a section plane here. And if you look closely, I'm going to do regen, redraw. You can see that that we created, the object is empty in the inside now, with a shell that was generated to be 1 unit thick. That's what I wanted to do. I created that 1 unit thick shell. Let's do that again so that you can see what the process was. Okay, go back to the 3D solid, go to solid, select shell, click on the object, press enter, and now you get the option of the thickness. I'm going to enter 1 unit, press enter, and enter, and enter. And now this object should be shelled. back to section plane, select, select to create a plane, and then check the plane to see if the object has been shelled. And yes, you can see how the object is empty inside now, right? If you select it, you see the cut plane there. And even more, right? If you create a section, then I'm going to do generate section 2D, 3D, and I am going to do a 2D section and select only this object, right? Enter and create. And now enter, enter. And now you can see the section, right? This is what we created. Now this on the background, you have the work plane that is cut on the section cut plane, and then you got the lines on the back that are the background 2D lines that represent whatever is behind. But we can see that the object is an empty void object inside, and that's what you can do with the shell tool. You can create that. And so in a way, all of these objects could be shelled like that, right? Let's copy this object. Maybe bring it near here. And now I'm going to do shell, right? Solid. Enter. Distance. And now let's do a section plane. And you can see how now the object is empty in the inside, right? Through the use of the shell tool. And so very useful tool to create this kind of geometry, empty objects that have a thickness on the wall as well. There's another tool that I want to use here. Let's see, is this the one? Yes, and so let me see if I can do this really quick. Solid, extract edges, click enter. And now I'm gonna do UCS plan and do a wireframe view. Oh yeah, we created edges, but you can see the thicknesses of the shell that these objects got. So that's great. And so another thing I could do is see if I can, I want to see if I can generate some geometry of that particular edge. So I'm going to do extrude. Oh no, because it's just an object on the side. What if I try to do a hatch? So you couldn't find a boundary. Yeah, so I need to study a little bit more the process of what I need to open that up. Although a single way of doing this, what I want to do is kind of open the top, is to do UCS by view, and now create a polyline here. And now I am going to use that polyline to do a slice, right? Slice this object with a planar object here. Done, right? And now let's see what we got. Oh, I didn't cut my 3D object. It did cut a different object. So let's do again slides with this object. No, slides. Planar object. I'll do it again once more. Oh, it's not cutting. So anyway, that's the application of the shell tool. And we'll do other things that we can do to create and modify the geometry as we move forward with that. Finally, to end today's session, let's talk about the gizmos. We got these tools here at the top, and they're called gizmos. We have 3 gizmos: move, rotate, and scale. And so what these tools do is that they allow us to perform some actions with this being active. And so for the gizmos to work, I need to be on conceptual mode. And so let's look at this. I am going to select the gizmo rotate, or the rotate gizmo. Now I click on the 3D object, and we see the gizmo right there, located at the axis origin point of that particular object. Now, this is the rotate gizmo, means that I can use those 3 different coordinate axis circles to rotate the object in any of those directions. For example, the green. Now I can rotate the object on the green. See? Select the red, rotate it on the red by moving my axis. And I can rotate at any angle that I want. Maybe I want that angle and that. So, and that works for any object, right? If I click on this object, then I get the rotate gizmo to rotate at any angle that I want. The same with the other gizmo, the move gizmo, right? So I click on, and then I can move on that axis. It's always going to be on the particular axis that I selected. And now I can just enter the distance, right? I don't have to type move, and I don't have to type the, oh, look at that. And I don't have to type the direction, right? I just click on the axis and perform the function. And so that's all for today. We reviewed all these tools that we have here. And so please continue working on your project, and we'll see you next time. I'm going to open up for questions in case you may have some. So we're open for questions. If you don't have any questions.